Hello, everyone. Welcome back for day 2 of this Adobe Live. I'm your host, Fabiola Lara. Thank you for joining us for part 2. So today on the stream, we're back with graphic designer Casey Moses. Are you ready for day 2, Casey? How are you feeling?
I am. I feel good. I'm ready.
Yes, I'm so excited. Okay, so be sure to check out the Creative Cloud Express streams on Monday and Tuesday mornings this week with Andrew Hawkriddle. He'll show you how to get started in the easy-to-use app and create content for Teacher Appreciation Week, and start your day with the creative encores of the Photoshop Creative Challenges hosted by Sam Peterson every weekday at 9 a.m. Pacific. Tune in and challenge yourself with a new prompt each day. Now, if you're joining us from YouTube, please go ahead and jump over to Behance by heading to behance.net/Adobe Live. This way we can see what you're commenting in the chat. We can answer your questions. Casey and I can actually talk to you, so come on over. And one more thing before we get to work, remember you can catch the replays for all of our Adobe live streams, even when we're offline. So bookmark this page so you can come back to it even when we're offline and you need a little refresh. Let me see what I got going on in the chat, Casey. Let's see who's joining us from yesterday. Hopefully we got a lot of folks here. Hey, Ferry. Hi, Robert. Thank you for joining us, guys. Hi, Richard. I'm so excited to have you guys back here. All right, Casey, I'm going to hand it over to you. Feel free to reintroduce yourself for any newbies who are watching the stream and give us a little update as to what we're doing today. I know you have something amazing planned.
All right. So hi, I'm Casey. I design book covers and I also do some hand lettering and illustrations sometimes. So I pulled up some of my work to share. Yesterday we did a romance cover together. So today we're going to do a fantasy cover, which I don't get to do a lot of this genre. So I'm excited. But here's the last fantasy cover that I worked on, Violet Mage of Thorns. It comes out this summer. It's really good. And it has kind of like an enemies to lovers, which is the trope we're going to focus on today for this fantasy book. And then I did pull up just some inspiration that we're going for with the art and the lettering. I'm thinking like simple and graphic. I pulled up some special editions from Illumicrate and a UK cover here. And then the Hazelwood's like a more classic cover. But we're going for this, and like Six Crimson Cranes has some custom lettering that I think is really cool. So we're going to try to do something like that. So I'm going to switch over to my iPad and we can start on the title lettering for this one.
The sketching and everything. So why do you like to use Adobe Fresco to get started? I know this was like a big question that came up in the chat yesterday. So maybe a little refresh, anticipating some of those questions.
Yeah, so I prefer using Adobe Fresco because I like to get started with sketching, like putting pencil to paper, but digitally here. And like just getting into like InDesign or Photoshop on my desktop just feels like a little cold, and I like to connect more to it and do just some like looser ideas to get started.
I think that totally makes sense. It's just like actually getting started sketching and stuff before going into the programs that let you start refining and perfecting right off the bat. That can be sometimes like your own kind of work against you, because you have so much power to make it so perfect from the beginning that you start getting into the weeds way before you have your idea fleshed out. So yeah. I can totally understand why you would start with a program like Fresco. And so now we're working on your iPad. Just for anyone curious who's not familiar with Fresco. All right, Casey, let us know what is this template? Give us a little refresh on that, because we worked on it yesterday. But for anyone who wasn't able to catch yesterday's stream, which you can go watch.
So So I start with just like an 8.5 by 11, like larger than the front cover size that I need. And then I created this template that I just dropped in to show like the trim size of the front cover, which is about 5.5 by 8.25. And then we have like an extra box around it that shows the bleed that we need to fill. And then on the right hand side, it has to wrap around the edge of the cover. So we're going to fill that space as well. And then I just pulled up a spine too, because we have to, any lettering we do for the front cover, we have to kind of rework for the spine. So we're going to be doing that as well.
Do you think you could write just real quick the dimensions of that little template, just if anyone wants to recreate it themselves? Yeah. Because I feel like it's such a key part of your flow. Yes, this is for anyone out there who wants to get into Adobe Fresco and make their own template that they can use. Those are the little dimensions, so you can make sure you copy her, because she's the professional.
Yeah, and then the spine I put here is just about 1 inch wide. I'm thinking we might go a little bit bigger. Sometimes fantasy books are a bit longer. So, and I'm thinking we're going to do some cool swashes, so maybe a larger spine when we actually get into the InDesign mechanical laying out the jacket. We can do that.
Do you feel like when you get a book that is longer, you're like, yes, I have more space?
Yeah, because then you get to play with like flipping things like vertical on the spine, or like more art for the spine, which I really like. Like I've just worked on the Violet Made of Thorns, actually, that one we got to do like a cool like fairy tale looking spine that's like really ornate, that we had a little bit of extra space to do that. So I'm always here for a larger spine. Unless it's a surprise at the end, right before it's due.
Right. It's already designed and they're like, we added 10 chapters. That would be
okay. So I am just grabbing the ruler tool, which we talked about yesterday. It's down here in the right hand corner. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to set some guidelines for myself. Okay. So I'm thinking we'll do, I'm going to put another blurb at the top because I did ask my TikTok friends for more blurbs on an enemies to lovers fantasy book. So we have that. So we'll use it. So
handy to have that. Your followers come through with some reviews, some blurbs to include in your design.
They're so the smart. Best. Okay. So I'm thinking we'll do
you have a name in mind for this one, or is it enemies to lovers?
We're just going to do enemies to lovers. I'm just going like simple with the tropes. So like it is what it is. And then, yeah, we'll do some like cool swashes probably. I'm hoping. I'm going to put enemies on one line and then two smaller in between. And then we'll do lovers larger as well.
It is 3 words, which is nice in terms of.
And we can do like a fun lockup and maybe put like some daggers around the word to, or something, like some kind of fantasy element. We can do that.
Yeah, kind of riffing off the inspo that you showed us.
Yeah.
Just earlier.
So I'm actually we can go like some letters, maybe like a little bit above the line or below. I'm gonna
so those main chunks are the same, right? They're 3
I kind of just counted 3 boxes and then maybe like a little bit of like a half a box
extra.
So I feel like that's good space to work with.
And why did you put like that extra space for the top one at the top and then the bottom one at the bottom?
So I'm thinking like I like when maybe like the first and last letter have like a little something extra where they ascend above or descend. But I don't, if I want to put art underneath, I don't want to do too much on the bottom of the word enemies. So maybe we can go more fun above, like the cap
because you
height
have that
on
word
it.
to in the middle.
Yeah. So I'm just gonna quickly, I grabbed a new layer. Let's make the pencil like a little bit bigger. I'm just gonna kind of block in. So we can do like an E that extends up higher, maybe.
Yes. So while Casey is working on this, on laying out her letters and all of that, you guys can go ahead and drop questions for Casey and questions about Fresco, questions about her process right into the chat, and I'll read them to her and make sure she's able to answer. So be sure to do that. If you have any questions, this is a two-way conversation here, or what is this? I don't know. Maybe it's like 3-way, 4-way. I don't know. But we're all hanging out. We're ready to answer your questions live. So go ahead and bring them while we watch Casey's process unfold right before our eyes. We're already at the S.
We can do like a fun S. So like I like when like the E and the S can go up higher, but I want to keep, and maybe even like we could do like maybe a swash on this E underneath, but like not going too far down. And then we can put 2. I'm thinking like 2. I might even just typeset 2 when we get to InDesign and not worry about lettering it. And then we can put like, we can do daggers here. Like that's very fantasy. That's enemies. So we have 2 daggers, 2 characters. I'm thinking like, I love a fantasy book that has like a romance in it. So I think that
we're including it because this is your book theme. It can be anything that you want it to be.
Yeah, that's the thing I always tell people, like book covers, it's like kind of like you can just make up stuff. Like you can self-assign portfolio projects and make it up.
Yeah, like in yesterday's design, we included we ran with the bakery and the cupcake theme. If you didn't tune into yesterday's stream with Casey, be sure to catch the replay available. I think Wade already dropped it in the chat, so you can bookmark it. But this whole process is it's unbelievable to watch Casey kind of just work on it live and get to such a finished point after, during our session. So definitely stick around to see this all unfold, but be sure to catch yesterday's later. All right. Yes, I love seeing how you're just like making these decisions. To you, they come so naturally. Yeah, like I would have needed that little line to make sure that the V was in the center, because maybe it would be like to the left.
Yeah, it's also, I'm thinking, so we have like the nice thing about enemies to lovers is enemies, and like they're not too far apart in like letter length. It's always hard when you have like a 10 letter long word and then like a 4 letter word. So these are pretty even, and we have letters like I that keeps enemies closer together. It's like when you have like a bunch of like W's and stuff in there, it gets trickier. But we can do a cute R. I think we do like another, like I like that, like I don't want to do anything too loopy because I want it to still feel like fantasy and sharp.
So are there like fonts that you associate with the fantasy genre more than, let's say, yesterday's romance genre?
Yeah, actually, this is the thing about, there will be like a huge fantasy book that has a certain font on it, and then it hits the New York Times bestseller list, and then everybody else will use that same font. And like I associate, like there's books like The Cruel Prince and These Violent Delights they use the same font, and I always, whenever I see it on any other book, I'm like, this font is on that book, and it's immediately what I think of. So that's a nice thing about doing some custom lettering on a fantasy book. Nobody else is going to pick it up and use it for a different book, which is nice.
That's true. Yeah, because then you become a trendsetter, but it's kind of like bittersweet, right? Because you're setting the trend, but then everyone's following you too. Yeah,
it's always funny, like, because it's like whoever used it first, like that's usually the one that people will associate it with. So that's a little difficult. I'm just like adding some fun swoopy fantasy looking swashes. I think we could even go like bigger on the L.
I love when you say fantasy looking swashes. You're like,
yeah, they have like a look. There's like a style.
Yeah.
And then like these two can kind of like mirror each other and wrap around the V. So we can have more fun at the bottom, since like enemies, we have to be careful of what's in the middle.
Definitely. So I love that you're taking that into consideration. Okay, so this is like your V1 first sketch of the hand lettered element. Now you're going to refine it.
Yeah, so I think I'm gonna pick up, so the cool thing about this is there's Fresco has like the vector brushes as well as the pixel ones. So I'm gonna actually pick up one of these. I like this. I have my favorites. I've marked this one as my favorite.
Velocity taper vector brush in Adobe Fresco. You guys write that down.
Yeah, it's easier to like, it's a little bit smoother, and I want like cleaner, like more like hard edges than like yesterday. I wanted more like texture and emotion and like a romance title. So we're like switching it up there.
Yeah, because for yesterday's title, it was romance themed, so there was more of a hand lettered feel that we were leaning into. And today she wants it to be more crisp, more graphic, because we're in a different genre. And so you got to work within your new assignment, essentially.
And sometimes I'll even I'll start with a shape so I'm going to start with like this E in levers, because we have a lot of E's, so I can replace it.
Okay.
So I'm going to start with, we have this shape. So I'm going to kind of use that and duplicate it in places to keep like a consistent thickness.
Got it.
So I'm just going to, because that's like the hard thing too. Like you don't want, you like want it to all be consistent.
Yeah, even though it's like hand done, you still want it to feel cohesive and harmonious.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm just gonna keep duplicating some of these.
Okay. So while you're building out those letters, I have some questions from the chat that I think you will love answering. There's so many really good questions here. Here from Matt Davies: how many genres should a book cover designer work in? Or is it possible to design for all genres?
So where I work, I do work on all genres, day job. I have my favorites. I tend to lean more towards just like, it's honestly what I like reading. I do a lot of romance books and I do a lot of thriller books because those are just my favorite. But it is really nice when a designer has like a niche that they're really good at. Like there's a lot of freelance designers who are really good at fantasy books.
Right.
And like same goes with artists too. Like I always tell like illustrators, we hire them because they're really good at like one specific style. And like it's with anything creative, like you don't need to know how to do everything. And I'm lucky enough to be in a position where, you know, anything I can't do, like I have resources to hire the people that specialize in those things. So like I don't have to be good at every genre. I collaborate with a lot of other people. So
that's amazing to be in that position, right? Where you can be like, you know, I could do it myself, or I could outsource it to somebody who like I can already see in the portfolio has done this a million times and we'll just knock it out of the park.
Yeah, especially if we're in like a time crunch too.
Right. Yes. Outsourcing. Okay. So this actually goes right into another question this one's from Wade. Shout out to Wade in our chat. So how do designers and illustrators get paired / selected for a book? Who makes those decisions at the publisher?
So I do a lot of artist research. Like I'm constantly looking for new people to work with. I'm on Instagram scrolling hashtags like no one's business. If you are on Instagram and you use hashtags, I will find your art and I will keep you in mind for a project. It's a lot of like the designers are looking for artists and like we pitch things to, you know, like the quote unquote decision makers.
Got it.
And yeah, so then once everyone like has a favorite, then I like reach out. I'm like, hey, are you available? Here's our budget. Do you want to work on this book? And most of the time people say yes. But yeah, so it's just a lot of research, like social media. I personally find a lot on social media, but I work with other people who, you know, especially like older designers who are like, it used to just be like all agencies that you would look for artists on before like everyone was on Instagram. So I still work with some people that like go like more classic in that way. And agency websites are like a great resource, but I also tell people like, you don't have to be represented by an agent.
Right. It's just a perk.
Yeah. If I can find your email address, like I'll reach out to you with a project.
That's so good to hear, you guys. For anyone in the chat who wants to work on a book, keep your Instagram apparently up to date. Would you say you look on any other platforms now that like TikTok's around? I know you're super active on TikTok. Are you looking there for that kind of work, or would you say it's more Instagram and wherever else you're looking?
I actually do. There are a couple artists that I have like bookmarked that came across my For You page on TikTok. So like I would love to hire somebody that I first saw on TikTok.
Yes, that's when we know it's like it's all shifting.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm not as active on Twitter, but I know that a lot of artists do also post their work on Twitter, especially if there's like a thread. Like I like the hashtag like drawing while black. If I'm looking for like a black artist on something, like a lot of BIPOC creators use hashtags like for like sharing their artwork within their community and their identities, which is a great way to find more diverse artists. So I'm definitely like, I'm just a hashtag scroller on all platforms.
Now I have to ask, what are your favorite hashtags to follow? Let's say on Instagram, because I think that's where you were saying you primarily look.
So I will just like, I'll start with like one if like portrait illustrations, like the more specific I'm looking for, the better. And then like I'll just like, if I find a really great piece of art, I'll like go click on the other hashtags that they used. So like it's like a lot of like digital illustration. The more popular ones are hard because everyone uses them. So like I just keep trying to find like the most like niche hashtag under a piece of
like
art.
A rabbit hole, right? Like
I do a lot of rabbit hole going down on social media.
And then it's like 30 minutes later, you're like, what did I just see? What did I just consume? Where am I? What hashtag? How did I get here?
Exactly.
It's a beautiful, beautiful feeling. Okay, so getting back to what you are working on in Fresco, how are you kind of making the decisions on kind of, I know this is a serif font, but how are you deciding how to form that letter?
So I do want something with serifs on it, just because it does feel it like adds those like little details, and it just makes it like it feels more like a fantasy font. But doing like some fun, like I like a swoopy crossbar, I think is fun. So I'm actually going to, I have like kind of this E, so I'm going to like group it and merge it so that I can copy it into other places where we have an E.
Got it. Yeah, that's the cool thing about hand lettering in any of these digital programs is you can just copy paste and save yourself some time, and it kind of helps you because it keeps things uniform where you want it to be uniform.
Yeah, exactly. So
it's like a big plus.
Yeah, it's like why do more work for yourself when you can like I think I'm gonna make that first E something different, but I can just repeat all these other ones that we have.
Cool. It's coming to life right before our eyes.
Okay, so I'm gonna find this first E. Okay, so we're gonna work here now.
You're gonna work on the next E. This is gonna be a deviation from the other E's, right?
Yeah, so I'm gonna go like we're going a bit higher on the top.
Do you have any tips for anyone who like wants to kind of better understand the structure of letters and how to kind of hand letter fonts and all that kind of stuff?
Oh my gosh, I have a book recommendation.
Yes, give us that book recommendation.
I brought up yesterday.
Yes.
The lettering manual. It's by Ken Barber. I actually think that the designer I work with at Random House recommended it to me because I was getting into lettering, and she's like, oh, I went to college with this guy. So I'm like, I just found it on Amazon, but it has like a ton of different styles and like building the letter forms, and like it's the lettering manual. So I feel like that's a good place to start and just like practice.
Yeah, because there are like rules to letter forms that you need to keep in mind, and for Casey, it comes really natural to her because she's been working on this for a long time. But if you want to just get started, maybe something like that book can help you kind of wrap your mind around the rules and what you're looking for and what you're trying to accomplish when you actually are creating these letter forms, as opposed to just, the 4 strokes that it takes to write an E.
Yeah, exactly.
Beautiful. I love it. That looks so fancy and so fantasy.
Which is like exactly what we want. I think like also, so since we're doing more of like this kind of gifty simplify, but like a lot of fantasy books have like really beautiful like CGI art, which is just, it is not in Casey's wheelhouse to do something like that. So I also like title driven covers where it's like the title itself is like the art. Like the main central image. So we're going to be creating like kind of other pieces supporting like this title, so like we can go like all out and make it look really pretty.
I can't wait to see it. In the meantime, we have so many questions coming in from the chat, Casey. So while you're chipping away at lettering, I'm going to go ahead and throw these questions at you and get everyone's questions answered. Okay. So Olga Mendoza, they ask, was there a cover that you were very unhappy about not getting approved, that the publisher chose the version you like the least?
So here's the thing. I always try to, first, I try to never show anything that I don't like, because inevitably that's what gets picked.
Pro tip, don't show anything you don't like.
Because that is exactly what everybody will gravitate towards. So if you don't like it, like save it until you have like no other options. That's my first tip. So I wouldn't say that I've had anything that like, it's obviously devastating to like work on something for months and months and like I really like it and the author likes it and the editor likes it and my art director likes it, and then we hear from outside of those departments that we have to start over, unfortunately. And like the hardest thing to me is like breaking that news to an artist who has also worked so hard on something that, hey, we actually are not using this anymore. It's devastating. I dread it. It feels like a breakup. Like it's the worst thing to me. But it is what it is. I try not to get like too hung, because like you can stay hung up on something forever that didn't work out. But like also like sometimes we save things and we end up using like that concept or art for something else. So I feel like it's never totally down for the count. So I try to, stay positive about it, but it does happen.
And it does hurt, I'm sure. It's just kind of like par for the course, right? Like you just know that these things happen. And maybe you take it less personally each time too.
Yeah, I try to never take anything personally when it comes to, like your day job. It's corporate America, it's business. That's like I know it's so hard for like creatives to separate their emotions from the work that they do. But like at the end of the day, like, you can always you can do something new and better. That's how I try to think about it. Like we're like, we can talk this. And sometimes we even like stick with the same artist and just like have them redo, like do a whole different concept. Because it's usually like never anyone's like fault. It's just like, people have their opinion.
What would you say are like the main reasons why something could be dramatically scrapped? As opposed to just like, oh, you know what, we want to change the position of the characters or we want to adjust the composition, but completely back to the drawing board.
I would say most of the time it's like like we hear a lot, like it doesn't look commercial enough. It doesn't look big book enough, which is interesting because it's not actionable feedback to give on something. It's so ambiguous in a way where
it's like hidden. It's like they're hiding the truth.
Yeah, it's like, so you're saying you don't like it, or it's not what's going to sell the book. It's usually that it's art, like sales or marketing, publicity, anybody like outside of the design editorial team don't feel like something's going to sell the book, which like is the whole goal. We want to reach as many readers with the book as possible. So if they just like have a feeling like this isn't what like their buyers are going to be interested in, they know the accounts they're selling to, like marketing is like, we can't make a successful campaign out of this. Like they all valid opinions.
Yes.
So yeah, it's hard, but you know, we
everyone has kind of their opinions and they have to be considered, and it's part of the business, right? Is
exactly. Like
it's understanding
the hard thing when you're selling a product at the end of the day, even though it is like it's art, it's somebody wrote this book. So I feel we're all feelers, I think.
Yes.
But
are there any things that you're like, what, that was actually I'm really glad we changed that. It did perform better because we changed X.
Yeah, actually, so I talked a little bit yesterday about the cover for A Good Girl's Guide to Murder, the US cover. There's a whole nother cover that exists for it, like that we did a photo shoot for. But that, thinking back, that it ended up turning into a series, and there's 3 books. And what we did for the first one, it wouldn't have translated as well to 2 more books. Whereas what we ended up going with, like everybody really likes that cover. And it's one that, people on Instagram will send me messages like, I saw this cover in the store. Like I picked this up because of the cover. So, that one hurts a little bit less because like it ended up being for the best.
Yes, it worked out. That's very rewarding. Can you tell me anything? Tell me, like it's just me. Tell all of us anything about kind of international covers. Like, are you guys working on stuff like that? Like when a major book gets translated, or I'm just curious what your role is within that, given that you're designing the US cover, I'm assuming, but correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah. So actually, like I've gotten this question before on TikTok because people are like, why do the UK covers look so different? Because the UK is another large public. Well, a lot of countries have publishing programs, but they'll be a lot smaller. So oftentimes, and this comes down to like art licensing too, when I reach out to an artist to work on a project, we always talk about what rights we're purchasing to the art. So say we get world rights for all editions. So say like a publisher in the UK wants to publish this book, they have the opportunity to then license. We paid extra for the art so they can license it from us. Some artists like will just do North American rights, and then if somebody else wants it, they can license it directly from them. But oftentimes, like the UK and US, I'm using those as an example because they're 2 very like large publishing industries. We just have it's 2 different countries, so there's a lot of like different trends happening. Like people's tastes are different, so covers end up looking very different. Like I think the UK like covers have, I remember like 10 years ago, like it's just come so far in 10 years. Like there's a very distinct style where like I can look at things and be like, that's a UK cover. And I think they can do like cooler printing and special effects, like which I know we were talking about earlier, because I think they have more printers, whereas like the US will try to print things overseas. It's more expensive, which is why we don't end up doing as much as they do. But yeah, it's all just like art licensing and like just general like taste in art styles.
Those markets. Oh, it's so fascinating to me. So interesting how like you can take the same thing and then it's better off like being reimagined for a new market as opposed to just like shoved in there, like it's good
because they want to make it, they have to make it for what their readers are going to pick up. So I don't think like I think it's like kind of cool when there's a different covers and all these different territories, because I think it's cool to see like, because it's usually the same story, we might change like certain words from American English to like UK, like they put a lot of tea in their books if we would change it to coffee here. So like they'll change things like that, but it's the same story.
My mind is being blown right now because I hadn't thought about that, about changing the context.
A lot of times, like sometimes we import books from they're originally published in the UK, and I'll get a manuscript and they're like, you can read this, but like we're Americanizing it, which means they're switching out, they say like school grades differently, which in teen books comes into play a lot. So they'll, adjust it. Like they say university, we say college. Like there's all these different little things that they'll just switch out
to make it more natural for like the new market that you're in. I love that. It's fascinating.
And sometimes they'll leave it too. Like they won't,
like, to make it feel foreign.
And
when I read like a British book and it's not Americanized, I'm like, wow, I'm like so high end. I have such class, because I understand these Britishisms that I'm like Googling on the side. So
yeah, it's also like British people are funny. Like I think the UK authors write some really funny books that I don't think it doesn't come across as much if you change it. I don't know. It's something about like their language, like it just changes the tone of it sometimes when you're reading it.
Naturally, as it should. Yes, guys, keep sending your questions. I'm asking all of the things that I think are fascinating while she shows us her workflow here and gets this lettering done. But if you have any questions, feel free to send them in the chat. If you're like, why isn't Fabiola reading my questions to Casey? Maybe you're not watching us on Behance, so be sure to join us over on Behance. Head to behance.net/Adobe Live, and you'll be able to join the chat and get your questions answered. So come on over, make the switch over to Behance, and we'll be answering all of your questions here. I am fascinated by the wealth of knowledge that Casey has about publishing and book design, and it's just so interesting. So I'm sure you guys have questions. Just drop them in the chat. We'll get to them. Okay, this M. So you've been using that same shape that you made just a little bit ago to kind of create every single element of the shape of the letter form, right?
Yeah, because just to like keep things consistent, I'm just gonna keep copying that. And then also like usually this, because it's vector brushes, I could pull it into Illustrator and make everything crisp and clean. But very time consuming work.
Yes,
but I like to get most of it done here.
I love seeing just how like efficient you can be in Fresco. Like even though we're still kind of in a sketchy phase, it starts to come together very quickly. So I think you're missing an eye.
Like make sure I group together all of the right pieces.
Did you hear me, Casey?
What?
I think that you're missing an eye unless you purposely haven't done it.
Oh my gosh, you're right. I covered it up.
You know why this happens? Because you didn't write the name of the title up top, which you showed us.
About this yesterday.
Yes, it's easy for it to happen. I think you have it in there, right? You just
I think I think I did it in the sketch, and I might have covered it up. We're gonna see. We're shifting things around.
It happens when you're just like looking at the letter forms themselves. It's very easy to have one kind of disappear on you.
There it is.
Yeah, I can see it in the layers, I think. Or no, that's the L. You have it in the sketch though.
Yeah, doesn't need too much space. All right.
Okay, so while we're continue creating these shapes using the vector brush in Adobe Fresco on the iPad, that's a reminder for anyone just tuning in and you're curious as to what's going on the screen right now. While she's working on that, we have so many other questions here. I love this because Robert Wennerberg, thank you for bringing this up. They're saying that they saw on TikTok that you have a lot of bookcases, and they're asking, how many books do you have?
Ooh.
Estimate.
I probably have like two. These aren't all my books. I probably have like 2,000 books. I've been collecting, since I was a child. and I get a lot of books for free. Like I get everything I work on. I thrift a lot of books. I trade friends at other publishers for
I love
books.
that.
So I have a ton of books. Yeah, I want to guess I would guess I have 2,000 because I have other books not on these shelves. I have a lot.
Wow, that is super impressive. If you guys have a big book collection, why don't you let us know in the chat how many books you think you have? Now everyone's just going to say 2,000, I imagine.
Yeah.
But let us know how many books you have to see how I feel like I only have maybe this is bad. I feel like I only have maybe 15 books, but I'm the type of person that likes to get them out of my house. I know that may be
I'm a collector.
That may be a cardinal sin given that you're in the book design space, but once I read them and I don't think I'm going to reference them again, mostly like novels or something, I tend to hand them off to other people so I can get more books. But that's just, my preference. But I love graphic novels. And so I'll keep those because I feel like they're easy to go back to and read a couple pages or just look at. That's my take.
Have you read Heartstopper or watched the Netflix show? Highly recommend those.
It's on my
novels.
list, but I can't decide if I want to read the book or see the movie first. So I've been kind of indecisive. I
recommend doing the books. Doing the books first. They follow. It's a very good adaptation. It's so spot on with the books. And it's fun to see. They also incorporated so the author, they were really involved in the process. So there's even little illustrated elements that come across the screen. It has graphic novel elements in the actual show.
I'm definitely gonna pick that up then because I've been debating it ever since I saw it. Is it on Netflix or was it HBO? I'm not sure.
It's on Netflix.
Is on. Yeah, but ever since I saw it come up and I've seen people talk about it, I've been I need to get my hands on that because that's just one of my favorite.
Yeah, is it if you're into graphic novels,
I'm not sure. Is graphic novels a genre or just a format?
I think people kind of think of it as both, but there's fantasy graphic novels.
Yeah,
there's contemporary. We actually have a whole graphic novel imprint at Random House. Random House Graphic, and that's all they only do graphic novels, which is cool.
I love it. It's my favorite. The only part of graphic novels that sometimes is disappointing to me is that they go by so fast.
Yeah.
That I'm like, oh, I'm in and out of the world so fast that it hurts a little bit, but I'll take it. I appreciate it anyway. Ooh, we have 1,500 books. Someone said. Another person said 10 or 12. I respect that.
Yeah. You know what I will say though? I've read them all. Everything that's back there I've read. So I don't have a ton of unread books. I probably have maybe 30 unread books. I have this little cart behind me that that's where I put everything I haven't read yet.
You guys, that is blowing my mind. I feel like my TBR, my to be read list is my pile. To be read pile is just never ending. I feel like I'm always doing that to myself. Do you have any advice for reading more? How are you consuming all of this literature?
If you are doing a lot of design work, if you're in the stream, audiobooks. If something sits on my shelf too long, I'll get the audiobook from the library and listen to it. Also, libraries have a ton of audiobooks. So that's and I listen to them at 2.5 speed to get as much as possible. So I'm just constantly listening to books. I think that knowing what's out there makes me better at my job. Knowing other books and genres that I'm working on, knowing the market really well, being well read, I think makes me more equipped to do my job. So definitely. Yeah, that's how I always think of it. I'm this is an investment in my career development.
100% to just keep up with what's going on in the market. I totally get that. How do you feel? I know you have a lot of books displayed behind you. How do you feel about the trend where people display the books with the spine towards the back of the bookshelf, pages out?
Okay, I do have a thought. So a lot of people do that if they collect special editions that have sprayed edges. Like some special editions will do like a stenciled edge. So I really like that. I think that's cool to show that part off, because otherwise, like how would everyone see
How do you
it?
know? Yeah.
So but when it's all like when you have all the white pages flipped around, that I'm like, it's a little neutral, it's a little beige looking, as like I have like rainbow organized books behind me.
I've seen it happening on like HGTV shows and stuff. They're like, oh, we want to make it more neutral in here, so we're going to do that. And I'm just like, ooh, I don't know how I feel about that. How do you find, even from a practical standpoint, how are you finding the book?
I think that people do that. They'll like thrift a bunch because it's more of like a decor thing and not so much reading the books.
So then we enter other territory, you guys.
Yeah.
I get that. I feel like I couldn't do it myself, but you know, to each his own, as they say. For the chat, I have a question. Since we're talking about books, we're talking about literature. This is an entire stream about book design and lettering. Can the book let me know? Can the chat let me know if you are a paperback reader, hardcover reader, or an ebook reader? I am just curious how many people here are reading books, you know, physical books versus ebooks. So just comment, you know, book, physical book, or ebook in the chat. I'm just curious what the split is. I love ebooks. I think they're easy to kind of go through if you're not used to carrying a book around. But I do appreciate just how special a hard cover or a paperback feels. Okay, so this R is a work of art.
Yeah, oops. It's on a layer with the S. We're going to fix that later. We're going to fix that in Photoshop.
That always happens. You got to watch your layers, you guys. It's really easy to work on the wrong layer.
I will admit that I do that often.
Yeah, it happens. It's very easy to just like get in the rhythm and forget to add a new layer.
Yeah, but you know, we'll separate it later. It's not a big deal. It's when you're doing details, like on top, like a detailed illustration, you accidentally draw on the wrong layer, and you're like trying to find it.
That's when it's hard. That's when it's hard. I love that you're connecting this R and S. What letters do you think lend themselves the most to being like connected like that?
So I think if you have like some kind of swoopy, like that is not the technical term for it. Anything that seems like it would flow nicely together, or even like you can connect serifs like at the tops of letters too. But I don't know. I think this felt right. Swooping this, and we can even we can continue the S up too.
I love that.
Because you know, we're trying to make it feel like this is the art. So, you know, as many details as we can get to make it feel, you know, it's definitely doesn't feel like a font if you
to make it feel special.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Yes, Wade in the chat saying concept art books are an investment. Have you worked on any books, concept art books, or kind of those more high-end books? I don't know what to call them properly.
I have not. Like you mean like more like kind of like coffee table books, or like books that
those
people
like $100
reference.
Books.
Yeah. I have not. It would be really cool too, though. I feel like I don't know. I feel like I haven't seen like any collections like that have like art or lettering. Like I feel like there's a lot of like photography books.
That's what
so if they have any recommendations,
maybe those need like designers to lay out the photos and any other type alongside it, but I'm not sure about the covers themselves.
We have like an imprint. Penguin Random House has an imprint. Clarkson Potter. They do a lot of like gifty coffee table books like that. That I know like those designers do like such cool work.
It's definitely like a different audience though, because you're not just going to run into a bookstore or even online shop and order one of those just willy-nilly.
Yeah.
It's definitely more purposeful. Maybe a different kind of market. Yes. I love everyone's commenting why they prefer ebooks or physical books. I love it. I love
See, I
seeing
can't
all the
read
chatter.
ebooks after staring at the screen all day.
I feel the same. But when I go to the beach, sometimes an ebook is like easier.
I know that a lot of people who have like a Kindle really, really love it. But yeah. Ooh. Undo.
Undo. No
when your
problem.
whole screen just goes black.
Yes. It's happened to us. It's happened to me before a lot. Beautiful. I love that R swoosh and the S swoosh coming, or is it the R swoosh? I don't know whose swoosh it is on the right, but that's
have like an RS ligature thing happening.
Yes, it's beautiful. Okay.
We'll move on to I feel like this O and this V, these are pretty like straightforward. So we saved V's for last. And yeah, this is like where I never go like fully perfect here, because usually if I have more time, I go into Illustrator and like smooth everything out and like move points around. So we have like sharp edges. So this is kind of just like, consider this like still sketch, like not quite final, which we have all these lovely Adobe programs to help clean up art like this.
Exactly. Yes. But since you show us like how you lay it out then for the actual book cover, it's cool to see how you take it from kind of this sketchy phase to then laying it all out together to actually form the book cover. That part, I mean, yesterday was super impressive, and I'm sure everyone in the chat will be mind blown when we see it today.
Yeah, we're gonna get to that. Actually, I'm like, I almost drew on the same layer again. And we can tuck this O into the L, which I think that
handy
looks good.
For space. Yes.
Yeah.
I love it when that happens and it saves me a little space. I'm like, oh, what a relief. I was looking for that space.
And we can drop this V like down further into the swoopy L too, which is nice.
It's great when you just get to work with words that just have like symmetry already involved.
Yeah.
And would you typically use the same bars the same shape that you used for the other letters on the V? I know you just freehanded it, but because
I feel like, you know what? I feel like I've gotten like kind of a sense for like the thickness we're using. So once I get into it, it's when you're so zoomed in on something and going letter by letter that I've zoomed out before, and it's all been like completely different weights and I have to go back in. So yeah, for the sake of time here, I feel like freehanding that.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. So I know, you're doing this, but you did recently complete your first 36 days of type project, which I'm sure got you very familiar with letter forms and, made you a pro at all of this even more. So do you have like a favorite letter that you created for that project, or a favorite letter in general?
I did. And actually, it was the first letter I did. I did the letter A I did for that project had like the rounded top, which I like. I like rounded letter forms like that. And I did like a mood board beforehand, and I did like a Lisa Frank 90s like nice. Y2K inspired, like really bright. So I did like a cheetah pattern drop shadow, like a really dramatic deep drop shadow, and put like rainbow cheetah print in it. I feel like that set the tone for like most of the lettering.
That's so fun. I'm sure you can see it on your Instagram, right? That's where
they're all on my Instagram.
Go check out her 36 days of type project to get even more type from Casey, even though you were just watching it here happening in real time. Go check it out on her Instagram and take a look at that project. Okay, what are we doing now? So
I'm going to move to my my desktop computer. I am airdropping this file because sometimes I'm worried about the sync catching up. So got it. So we're going to move to the desktop. Yeah. Just because things sometimes I want to get like a little sluggish. So I'm gonna move to my desktop now. Okay, cool.
Perfect.
And so I have a jacket mechanical already set up, and I have some elements we're going to use too. But
give us a quick rundown of this mechanical that you introduced to us yesterday, but for those who missed it, what is, get us familiar with this layout before we start working in it. So if anyone wants to recreate it at home or just get a better idea of how these book compositions come together, they'll have a little more understanding.
Yeah, so I told you, I set it up with like a 1.5 inch spine so we can have a little bit more breathing room, like fit all of those fun swashes in as well. So I'm gonna hide this, make it as big as possible. So we don't have to make any adjustments, and we can fit all of that lettering into the spine, which I'm going to open this Photoshop file. I'm going to clean this up a little bit. So, because
So this is the same Photoshop file that we were working on the iPad. You airdropped it over to your Mac, and now we're just turning off the layers that are irrelevant.
Yeah, I'm trying to, I want to make sure I have I know that I drew one letter from levers on the same layer as, it was part of this R. So I'm just going to, we're going to cut that out. And put it on its own layer so that this
all
S
tidy.
can live its life. Okay.
All right. So all the letters now are independent on independent layers, right?
Okay.
Separate
and then
layers.
I'm going to label this.
Got it.
And then anything that's, I'm not going to go in, I'm just going to rasterize some of these that are vectors, because due to time, we are not going to go into Illustrator and adjust things, but you can do that. I'm going to drop out all these layers, these guides that we don't need. Okay,
all right.
So this should be levers. Okay. And I'm going to we're going to kind of line them up centered.
Okay.
And I'm going to set the word to.
You're going to do that in here? Okay, cool.
Yeah, because you know what I think I'm going to do? I pulled some stock images of like a gold foil texture that we can put over it, and kind of, imagine that it's foiled in real life, but it's just for like a fun like texture detail.
Totally.
So actually,
I'm curious to see how you'll apply that.
So okay, so I pulled two.
Okay.
From Adobe stock. I just searched like a gold foil texture. I think that this one probably has too much texture, so I'm going to go with this like smoother one. And I'm just going to, well, first I'm going to group this whole thing together, and then I'm just going to drop this on top.
Mm-hmm. Can you zoom in on that for us so we can get a closer look? Yeah, or open up the screen. Yeah. Cool.
Better.
Yes.
And then I'm just going to clip that on top.
Fancy.
So as you can see, like we have some letters. I like that. I think it's okay that some letters are like touching each other. Those are like details that I would normally refine, but like I think this is looking cool.
Oh yeah.
And then I'm actually just going to repeat this group, and we're going to do we'll flip it for the spine. So okay. I kind of have
that
like
was just a gold foil image as a clipping mask on that group of the lettering that you created in Fresco, right?
Yeah.
And now this is for the spine.
Yes, correct. So we're gonna make it like a little bit smaller.
And I realized yesterday that you prefer to work in one single file as opposed to creating a bunch of different files.
Yeah.
Why is that?
You know what? Because usually if my Photoshop is sick of me already. Usually because when I'm lettering something, if I do not consider the spine type in that moment, in that file, I will leave it until the last minute. And then I will be mad at myself that I did that.
Right.
So I try to take care of it like all at the same time.
For efficiency's sake, you guys.
Yeah. Because I'll be mad at myself later.
Yes, Joshua, it is fancy. I agree. Okay, so you just separate it. You're just laying it out differently than you did for the actual cover.
Yeah. And I'm just going to merge some of these groups because we're not going to do too much else.
Got it.
And then I'm just going to copy this foil again. Mm-hmm. I'm going to group the first one, and then we'll do foil over top of this one as well.
Cool.
And same thing, I'm just going to clip it on top.
Right click.
And I just do the option and hover in between.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we're gonna save that.
Okay, so now we have the book cover title and the spine title ready to go.
And I'm a drag and drop girl. So
why not? Best kind of girl.
So I'm gonna make a copy so that we can have spine type and then front cover type separately.
Perfect. And now we're working in InDesign. So we went from Fresco to Photoshop to InDesign.
We're all over the place.
Working across a lot of programs, but that's kind of the beauty of it. You can really simplify, jump between the apps seamlessly.
Yeah. And which I go back and forth all the time.
Exactly.
So I'm also going to, I'm just going to lay some colors down behind these two because we have these guidelines, but it makes it a little bit easier, I feel like.
Yeah, it can be hard to differentiate.
And I like the idea of a, maybe green.
Yes.
We'll start with green.
Very moody.
I'm just gonna shrink this down a little bit.
Do you base the spine do you base the spine on a specific page count? And I think you addressed this earlier.
Yes. So the longer the book, the larger spine we have to work with. So I just kind of wait for I work with a production manager that will tell me here's the spine width for the book, and I'll adjust that and make sure that it's right and all the pages are going to fit in the book. I think that this too is a little off center, so we're going to move it over a little bit. Actually, you know what? I am going to separate the spine because I think I'm just going to duplicate this.
I guess it would be easier to keep the file slimmer, right?
Yeah. I'm just going to delete that out. And everything we're not using.
Okay. So sometimes you got to cut the fat on your files.
Yeah.
But always keep the other. Are you like me? I always keep multiple versions of every file just in case I have to go back.
I do that. I'm a chronic InDesign packager too. I'm actually just going to make this. I'm going to make it the width and height of the spine.
Okay. Now you selected those layers.
Yeah,
and you're just dragging them over.
They got hidden.
Got it. Okay.
So I think I'm going to do that. I'm actually, I'm having second thoughts, and I'm going to, what if we did like a full foil spine, and the type is knocked out of it? That would be like a cool special effect. Like that's one of those things that would it would look really attractive on the shelf.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to hold Command and select that type, and I'm just going to mask it out of, hold on, we have to inverse that. So I'm going to knock it out.
I feel like you had it just a second ago.
There we go.
Yes.
I'm going to break that link and no.
Yes, Richard, you missed the addition of gold. I'm sure you can maybe tell here that she's working on a clipping mask of a gold Adobe stock image to kind of give us that effect for the stream. But we're switching things up. Now the whole spine is gold.
Yeah, we're just gonna call this spine.
Perfect.
Okay.
Remember, guys, if you're watching over on YouTube, come join us on behance.net/Adobe Live. That way we can actually chat. You can ask your questions. We can get them answered. And it's just a fun time over here. So come join us on Behance. And if you're tuning in and you have questions, you're wondering what's going on, how did that happen? What, I want to know more. Drop your question in the chat. We're more than happy to answer them while Casey shows us her workflow. Okay, Casey. So you dropped in that spine.
Yes.
Or it updated. Just updated, right?
I dropped it in.
Got it.
And cool. We're going to add. So I'm just using as author name bookish tropes because it's 2 words and it can go nice at the bottom. So I'm just going to add this in, and I like all caps feels right. I'm going to also I usually track things out to 100.
Yeah, you were saying that gives it kind of the more
it automatically just makes it feel more finished, you did something to it.
Yeah, you didn't just type.
Yeah. So I think the green and gold look really good together. So I kind of want to.
I think so too.
I want to kind of stick with that. But actually, you know what? I grabbed some art that I'll show you all the stock
give us
things
a sneak
I
peek
grabbed.
at what you selected.
Yeah, so I grabbed this kind of because I wanted something graphic and pretty ornate decorative feeling. So I grabbed this stock image, and then earlier I
love seeing what you gravitate towards. Oh,
I added the floral, some of the leaf looked like snakes, which is a very fantasy, a lot of books have snakes on them. So I thought that it would be cool if they looked like plants and snakes, and we can use that.
Yes, I see it. You have the little slithering tongue coming out of the bud.
And
I like that.
But I think if we have those green, then maybe we do a black background, and I'm gonna do a rich black, because I don't know if here I can show, this is a trick.
Yeah,
if you just do 100% black, I don't know if you can see how dull
I can definitely see. Yeah,
so that's the thing we do in print design. If you just use 100% black, it's kind of a matte, it's a grayish tone. But if you do something like this, if we open up this, this rich black has cyan, magenta, and yellow in it as well, which just makes it a little bit. It makes it black. Yeah. Because if you just use this, and then I think some people also will do this. If they're I want the blackest, darkest, and they'll put everything up to 100, which looks okay. But another thing that we do with printing is there's an ink limit to how much ink the paper we print on can hold. So we will check the ink limit on something, and it's usually all of the different inks have to add up to less than 320 on something, so it'll light up bright red, and it's like you cannot print that color.
You can't print 100 of every ink.
Yeah, it's just too, it'll like sink through the paper and tear it. So there's a nice sweet spot of like a rich black tone that will not tear through the paper, but will look nicer when you print it than just like 100% black ink.
Beautiful to know. I feel like those are those things that you only learn after working in production and working in print and actually sending files off to a printer and seeing the outcome.
Yeah.
So that's so handy in case you guys were wondering about the why InDesign offers those two types of black, when to use which. And I had never seen the ink separation.
So those are just like, because we do a lot of like, it's like pre-flagging a file to make sure, that everything's going to print the way we want it to print. So that's kind of like last step. I talked a little bit yesterday about how, I work kind of in CMYK and RGB because a lot of artists work in RGB, and like how we'll switch it to CMYK and then do like test prints to make sure that everything is looking good, and like checking that ink limit, and you're like trying to warn artists like ahead of time, like don't use blacks that are too rich in your file, because sometimes it's harder to find them in Photoshop and adjust them appropriately to print better. But yeah, so those are just like some of the things we do before we send things to the printer.
So good to know. I feel like it's just like another mind, right? Like if you usually work in digital, these are things you don't consider, and then you start working in print, and it's like, oh wait, no, every little action on your computer has like a repercussion to the print.
There's always lots to consider.
Yes. Okay, so how are you, tell us about the font that you're picking to pair with the hand lettered text. I'm always obsessed with how designers pair fonts.
So I just grabbed something that has like Kepler, like this font Kepler just has a ton. Like the family is huge. It has everything. And especially with like setting copy on book covers, like there's a lot of things, like if you're doing a byline and there's book titles in it, you have to have an italic version. And just having like different weights, I think lets you just like have more freedom to stay in like one font family and do like different variations. So I just picked something that in my mind is a serif font I knew had a bunch of different weights to it that we could use.
Yes, that's something that's like super handy. And sometimes you like fall in love with a font and it only comes in like one weight. And now
it's devastating.
Yeah, it is devastating. It is devastating. So that's always good to know. Do you have other fonts that you feel like you always gravitate towards because they have a lot of weights, options?
Yeah, you know what? Honestly, I'm like, how's it even pronounced? I say Avenir, but I've had professors in college that pronounce it differently. But in the drop-down menu, it's like one of the first A fonts. Yeah. So I use that one a lot for things because it also has a lot of options. Yeah.
So handy.
So I just have like some, like I have like a, like this is my go-to serif font. I have a go-to sans serif font. Even if I'm just like laying things out, I'll quickly
just make those selections.
Yeah, and then if I want to switch it up later, I can. Mm-hmm. And so we're going to use that's what I talked about when we have like a wider spine. We can do horizontal type on it. And then we don't have a logo, like usually a publisher's logo, but I have swords that we can use.
There's always swords.
Yes, which I'm going to I have swords that I can drop into the title type as well that I just grabbed from Adobe stock beforehand.
These are the little details that make it seem like a real book.
Yeah,
and I feel like
I
feel like because you work in the industry, you know exactly like what to add to make it just look like so elegant.
It's like all in like the little details. Mm-hmm. I feel like are like that's my favorite part of doing the whole jacket design. So I have this single sword. So we're just gonna copy this.
because we were thinking about having it on the 2, right?
Yeah, so I'm going to, we'll paste it in here. And so the foil can go over it as well.
Yes.
But if we make it just a little bit smaller, and we can kind of fit it like framing either side of the word too.
Yeah.
Bear with me, Photoshop is angry.
Cool. Sometimes, you know, it can happen.
I'm just gonna, and I duplicated that, and I'll just flip it horizontal. So we have it going in the other direction on the opposite side.
Yes.
And that's like
symmetry. It's pleasing to the eyes. It adds a nice little illustrated touch.
And then that should update.
Concept. I love when it updates.
Yes.
It looks so cool.
So yeah, that's looking cool. Back cover. So we always have to have a barcode, you know, when people buy it. So they get scanned and they pay for it. So I just grabbed, same thing, Adobe stock. I just grabbed a barcode image from there that I placed. But I'm thinking, so I have blurbs here, but I feel like we can put them all on the back flap, because usually we put like an author bio and photo there, but we don't have those things. And like a special edition, I'm thinking we put more art on the back and no copy. So I think that's what we're going to use this
cool
for. So I'm going to open this Photoshop file. Let me close. We're done with these. Okay. So
wait, can you zoom in on the little alterations that you made?
Yeah. So I have, okay, let me see. So this, I'm thinking that we can do like a gold detail on these.
This is a special edition. We decided the minute we added the gold foil. So I agree with that.
And then I added little snake heads too.
I love that. I think it looks so cool. It's like subtle, but then you're like, oh, creepy in like a fantasy way.
I'm going to drop out this background because we have black background in the jacket file already. But I'm going to grab that. I'm going to grab that foil again, and we'll, not the very textured one. We'll put this in here. And we'll put it just over all the little yellow lines. So I'm gonna rasterize this, and we'll just copy it. So I'm actually just going to duplicate it and kind of mirror it so it lines up with what was happening at the bottom.
Oh, smart. Yeah.
So there's not any like weird, because it has like a color change.
Yeah.
So if we do that, like it's not gonna be noticeable anyways, but I always do things like that.
Just try and make it the best that it can.
Yeah, we have a tiny little gold.
Can you zoom in real quick for us just to see the difference maybe between the?
So there's like a tiny, it's very subtle, but, and I'm going to merge these, and some of the lines go off of the, I don't want the lines to go off of the leaves. Got it.
So that's why you made it a clipping mask. Okay.
Yeah. So
cool.
I feel good.
That looks really nice.
And so that green feels like a little bit too green, though. I have like more of like a minty tone. So this green, I'm just going to grab so this is in CMYK, but I'm just going to grab this code, and we'll copy that into Photoshop to match the color palette that we have going on here.
I am fascinated with how you are kind of going in between the apps and just making it all come together. It's so interesting.
And so green, and like I pasted that code because so it works in CMYK, like we knew that. So pasting it in here, I have the shortcut Shift Command Y. It grays out everything that doesn't translate back and forth. So that's helpful, especially with like greens and like purples. I feel like are some of the hardest colors to like go back and forth between. So, and then I lock transparency to change colors, and I update the background color over here. And then I just do Command Delete and it fills. all of that space. So
cool.
That's how I know everyone does it
Everyone
differently.
does a million different ways. Yeah.
But let's place that art on.
Okay. This is exciting.
Okay, so here's our file. I'm gonna make sure it fills it fills the back cover, but the cool thing is it's like a repeating pattern so everything should match up if I just copy it. So I don't have to worry about like filling the whole thing, like having that square image and filling like a rectangle. I don't have to resize it or anything, and it should match up nicely. And I'm just going to reorganize this so that the barcode is on top, and we can like put it like kind of maybe too high, bottom right corner, but we have like a nice pattern filled background.
That looks so like tidy and cool and very kind of luxe, like special edition.
Yeah, and we have like those tiny shiny gold foil details in the leaves, so like that's something that I think would be cool. And we're just gonna put all these blurbs. So I grabbed this part enemies, part lovers, and wholly romantic. This is one of my friends on TikTok, Tori. She's an author. She has a book coming out next year, which is cool. But she sent a blurb in for this, and I'm like, oh, that's so funny. We have an actual author. She's on the front cover.
That's amazing. Yeah, because usually you were saying that blurbs from notable authors or New York Times bestsellers tend to go on the front to give it that association, right?
Exactly. So we can just put the rest of these on the back cover. And I have so many lovely friends from TikTok that sent in
their little fake blurbs.
Yeah, which we love. That's so I think that's so funny that people did that. And like they wrote them, it's like so like it just sounds like a blurb that would go on a real book, which I think is funny.
I think so too. I feel like everyone was like in on it, you know?
Yeah.
In on it with you.
So I'm just going to, we can use that green here. And so I'm just putting praise for.
Could you zoom in a little bit for us? I feel like we can't really see what's going on.
Here we go.
Here we go. Yes, yes, yes.
So I'm just going to center that. I'm going to make everything all caps. I'm always, I guess I should mention this. I always work in the typography workspace in InDesign. So we have all these great tools up here automatically. So
if you're not seeing that workspace, you probably just need to switch it.
I'm going to make this bold, but Enemies to Lovers is a title. So we're going to make it italic. And we'll make it a little bit bigger.
Oh yeah. All these little details just make it look like a real book. I love it.
And all these, so I used everybody's TikTok handle for their attributes here to their, and I'm just doing like a hard return to put them on their own line.
Perfect.
This is something I spent a lot of time doing, like formatting type like this. And we can.
Do you have any pet peeves in type that you feel like hurt you when you see them out?
Widows, orphans, hyphenated words. Like I spend so much time kerning things and trying to reflow, changing things like the point size by like 0.1 to try and get things to reflow properly. But like, I don't know, sometimes it's kind of like therapeutic to sit there and fix all of the bad breaks.
It's like your mind can just like zone out and just fix it.
Yeah, we're gonna kind of make them a little bit and like I'm just like doing like optical things where some of these lines look like a little bit too long, so it would look nicer. Like this line here is short and the two above it are really long. So and I like to break kind of like where it feels natural, like there's a comma there. So like this feels good. Actually, like I don't like the longer. That feels more even. So I just like do things like that to make everything look a little bit prettier.
Balance. Yes. I think it's like very underrated, but it's so important because you can immediately tell when it looks off.
Yeah. So we're just trying to make it, you know, look as nice as possible. And we're going to add some like fake, this is where the summary would go, but I'm just going to like fill it with placeholder text. And we're just going to use like a regular small font for this. So if you go to the type menu, fill with placeholder text, we can get, let's do white.
You can get a little bit of nonsense type to fill the space so that you can continue designing even if you don't have the official text ready.
Exactly.
Okay, and today you're going to create that kind of drop cap manually?
Yeah, I'm just going to use this because this kind of feels like it looks similar to like the N that we lettered because I'm just using a serif font. So we're just going to do that. And I'm going to delete some of this. And so I also like to, like, we can add some leading in between these lines. So it looks a little bit better.
Yeah, a lot more legible that way.
Yeah. I want to put like some art above it though. So this is the nice thing about this fake copy. I can just
chop it.
I can just keep cutting things. So I think we'll put some like spot art above it. I like to drop everything like way down to this like margin down here. And some people get mad at me, but I think it looks nice when everything is like lined up across the bottom. Like I'll even drop the barcode down, which is something nobody notices, but I have to look at it. While I design it.
If you can help it, why not? Why not? Okay. So you were mentioning now you're going to add a little bit of art.
Yeah. So I grabbed like a couple extra pieces that I feel like we can maybe fit on the front cover, like fill some of the space surrounding the lettering we have. And I did some
Are you
stars.
changing any colors here? Because people really wanted to watch that replay kind of in slow-mo.
Because this is still that kind of more like bright green, and we did like a minty green. So let me
be sure to tune in here if you guys were wondering about the how she selected that color and swapped it out.
So so I have let me go back to InDesign and get the green color that we're using.
It's like a minty green as opposed to that vibrant green.
Okay, so wrong green. If I click into this and go up to this first menu, it has this code down here for the color. So I'm going to grab that to paste into Photoshop. And so it's here. All right, I grabbed the background color and then it's already in here. But if you just paste it in the bottom here, it'll select that color for you. And then I lock the transparency and hit Command Delete. And we now have a lighter green up here. Photoshop does not like me today. So it changed that, and we can update this one as well.
So lock transparency, and then was it Command
Delete?
Command Delete.
I don't know. I don't know anybody else who does it that way, but I don't know. It's just it's how I change colors. And I know a lot of people do things differently. So I don't know if you're into that. But cool. I think I started doing it because I was quickly changing background colors, and then I just got in the habit of changing like art elements by doing that.
I feel like everyone falls into their own kind of routine and what they like to do, and if you know that works for you, why would you change it? So I'm curious. I'm gonna try it out and see if I can tell a difference between that and, like, I don't know, a clipping mask, or the other millions of ways you can change colors depending on what you're trying to accomplish. Okay, so now you have that as a transparent element that's the correct color, and just dragging and dropping.
Yeah, and I just made it a little bit smaller. Okay. But so we can use this like kind of coming off of like the corner here.
Cool.
Could look cool.
Yeah, similar to the pattern that kind of goes all the way full bleed.
Yeah, and like I feel like it could fit around the.
That's true. Well, we have about 2 minutes to go until it's time for our artist spotlight. Just giving you a heads up, because I don't know what you're gonna do next, but just want to make sure you know.
All right, sounds good.
And anyone in the chat that has any questions, once we come back from the artist spotlight, we'll have about 10 more minutes with Casey. So please get started dropping your final questions into the chat over on behance.net/Adobe Live. Drop your questions, and there's still a chance that we'll answer them right here live. Casey's been showing us so much about her workflow, so I'm sure you guys have plenty of questions. Don't be shy, bring them over. Okay, I love how that looks. It looks like very, it adds an element of symmetry, of course, but it also gives it more of that fantasy feel, right?
Yeah. So, and like even like we could do, I fear that Photoshop will the Photoshop is a little shy today. I don't think she wants to be on the stream, but we could like, so you see how, let me zoom in. Like we could even, like if I put this in the same art file as the type, like we could overlap, like the like snakes could be like interwoven with the type. So we can do like cool things like that. So it doesn't feel like as flat, it's like interacting. Yeah. But yes, that's more time consuming work.
Exactly. Maybe we can get to it on the way back from our artist spotlight time. It's here. It's time for our artist spotlight. So today we are highlighting Matt Joyce. This is incredible. His work is amazing. So he's a freelance illustrator based in Cardiff. And their work is so cool. We should just like click in and see some of their work, check it out, and it's just like really vibrant.
Ooh, lots of motion
animated
happening.
Illustrations. Yeah. So cool. A lot of hand lettering happening too, right? Like all of these.
Yeah, no, I like the stay gold that drew me in. I was not expecting all of this.
Because it's so also cool. Got like a little like flourish, not flourish, animation. Oh, this is neat. I feel like he's really good at creating these like little worlds that have kind of these like hidden elements. Like there's so much happening. There's so much for your eye to gravitate towards.
The characters are so cute. They little are. Ice cream cone.
But I feel like there's like little hidden gems everywhere. What else do we have here? The maps are pretty cool.
Map? Oh, that's so cool.
It's very intricate.
You can go in the office wall. It's like a mural.
Exactly. Oh my gosh, like his own world.
Little pretzel.
So cute. Again, still with the like little hidden gems that you can kind of spot throughout. But then there's so many hand lettered elements with different like styles too. You know, he's got like script, and then he's got
the Irish, like the classic Irish lettering, the Loch Ness Monster up here.
It's so cute. But you can tell that it's like still kind of geographically accurate. The actual shapes of the country. So that's neat. It's a hard balance to kind of create this like illustrated map that's playful but still captures like geographically accurate.
Yeah, like informative. Like it serves its purpose. Functional. I also really like the color palettes are really nice. This is really bright and cool.
That is so cool. Yeah, and he's using like line work, but also different colors with the line work. You know, like some of the line is blue, some of it is white, some of it is the dark blue. It's so neat.
Yeah.
There's a lot of motion too happening, like a lot of action, and I think that really kind of makes it feel even more playful.
Yeah.
These things are like kind of these topics are like kind of intense, but it feels very playful.
Yeah, and like how like there's things are on an arc, like it's not everything is not just straight up and down, which I think we talked a little bit about yesterday, like composition wise, people tend to go there first.
He's really like integrating it into the illustration, which can be a hard thing to accomplish.
Yeah,
like alongside the illustration, the text just flows right into the little world that he's created. It's so cool. I love how graphic and like bold and punchy all the illustrations are along with the type.
Yeah.
Very, very neat.
So cool.
Love people. Little people. What else do we have here? I feel like there was, can you open that first one? Oh, I do like the coffee one too, though.
I saw the pink. So
yeah, your eye went towards the pink. I love these. These are like window graphics, window displays. They're so sharp. And it's definitely playing to his strengths of like creating this little world where so much is happening. Oh, it's so playful.
I love like the negative space too. So you can still like see through the window and probably like light comes in.
Yeah, it's like privacy, but also you can still get some light.
That's like a really cool, because you know, like I feel like people are hesitant with murals, but like maybe like a window. I think that's really cool.
Yeah, because they're probably like removable too. I mean, not that you would want to remove it, but it's like less of a commitment than, let's say, a mural that's like
exactly
onto the material. This coffee one is so cool.
Oh my gosh, I love.
They're so cool, and the type is really like, it has that texture that goes along with the. This is like more textured than any of the other pieces we've seen, I think.
Yeah. Oh, I really like. I like the pink and the dark purple.
Yeah, it's very moody.
Yeah.
Do you like the AeroPress? I find it bulky sometimes when I've tried to use it, but it's still cool.
I've never tried to use one.
It's like more portable coffee system, but I love my coffee. I'm still finishing my cup, but it's so neat to see. I love the little what do you call it? A little flare on the R.
Yeah, the leg of the R, like the swoop. I use the word swoop all the time.
It has a lot of personality, you know. It's like
yeah, no, I love that. I think that R's are like one of my favorite letters, 2-letter.
They're fun.
Like R's and K's, because you can do a lot of fun things with the leg of that letter.
Beautiful, beautiful. What other good work do we have here? Let's take a look. One more.
Look.
He just has a way of taking up an entire space and still kind of making it feel like busy and like it almost feels interactive just because there's so much action happening.
Yeah, I like that things seem separated by like these light background colors, but it all feels cohesive.
All within the same little world.
Yeah.
And so much movement, I think. That's like a hard thing to do sometimes when you have like a big layout, is kind of capturing the movement without being just like completely overwhelming, but there's still hierarchy here with the text and the different blocks behind every little section.
Yeah, and I think it's cool that they do like characters and typography and just like more like iconic elements. And it's like all very strong, because like I feel like sometimes people tend to stick with like one, like they only do characters or they only do lettering. That's something we look for with book covers all the time, because like everything needs a title and a lot of books have characters. So if you can do both. Big plus. This is super cool. I love just the little like funky world that he can make with each single piece of art. It's very neat. Incredible work from Matt Joyce. Just amazing. So much different use of color, so much different use of composition, so many cute little like nuggets of illustrations that you can just like get yourself lost in. I am very impressed. I'm gonna follow.
So yeah, give it a follow.
Oh, I'm not logged in.
So be sure to follow Matt Joyce on Behance, check him out on social media, and just remember that you can submit your own recommendations for creatives to highlight for our next Artist Spotlight. Just head over to the Artist Spotlight tab at the top of the chat on Behance to send your nomination. So if you're watching on YouTube, come over to Behance, because you'll see at the top of the chat, it'll say chat info and then Artist Spotlight. You can tap on Artist Spotlight and drop in your recommendation so we can highlight maybe you or your friend or someone you know for the next Artist Spotlight on our stream. Be sure to do that. Send us your recommendations. We're always looking for new talent to highlight. I mean, this work is incredible, and there's always so many more artists that, you know, we want to make sure we spotlight. Now, we can go back to Casey's book cover, because we are in like such a good spot. We have about, 15 minutes to keep on working, something like that. I'm not doing super accurate math right now, but let's see what else we can get to, because this looks like it's come a really long way. But what else do you think we can work on, Casey, to kind of elevate it and really finish off this book jacket?
So I think that we can do a piece of spot art down here where we left some room.
Yes.
So let's do that. And maybe, so there was a couple, I also put some, let me go back to this. I put some stars in here, and some of these blurbs people sent in had like star-crossed lovers.
Oh yeah.
In them, which I think is cool. So here, you can see the stars better if I have
Cute. Yeah. I'm like, you're gonna have to zoom in for us there.
Yeah. So maybe we can add some of these, and I did like some different like styles, but we can just move them around and like copy them and see if we can place them around the jacket in some places.
Perfect. Yeah, I'm down to see that. Just a reminder again for those in the chat, if you have any questions left for Casey, bring them over, drop them in the chat, because we've got about 10 minutes of working time left. So drop your questions, get your questions answered. You don't have to leave wondering. You can get them answered right now. Okay. I love these little stars. I'm guilty of putting stars on everything whenever I'm like, what can make this better? Stars.
I love the like sparkle star, like this one. I will admit I put a sparkle star in a lot of like personal projects.
Yeah. I'm like, anything could use a little sparkle.
Yeah, exactly. So we're just like moving some of these around. I'm gonna drop this background back out too.
Okay. Perfect.
But yeah, we'll try putting these.
So that was in Photoshop. Now we're going back to InDesign to drop in that.
Exactly.
The artwork. That artwork.
So, okay.
Perfect.
I'm actually going to rename this stars. So if I need to find it again.
You keep some sense of order.
Yes. But like we can fill like some of this other space with the stars. Just like move them around a little bit. I kind of like spread them out. So
yeah,
if I want to like copy and move things or like have a little bit more control, we can, and we can kind of go around the like the sides of some of these and like get like into where there's like these bigger like spaces we can get in there, like closer to the type.
Yes, and I would imagine that since this is a special edition, those could even be foiled. I'm not saying to foil them now, but I'm just saying they could be foiled.
Yeah. My fan is on. I'm like, I don't know if the microphone's picking that up. So I'm not sure Photoshop could foil today.
Yes,
but yeah, I think like it's just like an extra cute detail. And I was talking about this yesterday with like we added sprinkles to the background of that romance cover. Like I will keep doing stuff like this and adding more. And then so I like send jackets through, they have to be copy edited to make sure, like all the blurbs, like there's no spelling errors, like even like this is something that would be marked like this doesn't have punctuation, so like have to add that stuff in, but the editor usually sees it at that point and they'll be like, can you take away some of the stars? Because I just have a tendency to go like a little bit overboard, but I would rather have like more to take away than be like it's missing something.
Yeah, no, I totally feel that because then you can just like edit down as opposed to trying to come up with what to add. Yeah,
and that's a little bit easier to do that. I'm actually I kind of like this yellow that we did. So I'm wondering, I think that
it does pop off the black a lot more. There's a little more contrast.
Because we have a lot of green happening. So I feel like we could even like that, I think makes that stand out more from the art we have.
So we have a question here from Miguel. Thank you for your question, Miguel. So do you ever use Illustrator to make book covers, or would you recommend only InDesign?
So you can lay out in Illustrator. I always recommend like unless it's like your typography is the art, like we have enemies to lovers title here in Photoshop. I always recommend like not setting type in Photoshop. You can set type in Illustrator and InDesign, just like layout wise. I think the InDesign is the best program for that.
The full art, like for the full
just
book jacket.
Yeah, it can be so like typography heavy, and I just find that like doing like the page setup with like the margins and everything is easier here than like artboards in InDesign. And this is just kind of like the industry standard is to use InDesign, and then we have like all of the PDF like exports, like all the pre-flight stuff, like checking the ink limit and stuff. I feel like is easier to do all of that here. But I will admit that I learned to set type in Illustrator because I had a lot of professors in college that only knew Cork, which is like the layout program that like predates, and like no one uses it anymore. So I had professors that were like, you can just set it in Illustrator. And then I learned InDesign at my first job, working for a newspaper. And so like it was just laying out a ton of text. So I just find it easier to do everything in InDesign.
I agree with that. I feel like InDesign is just really good for layout. I also worked at a newspaper. I worked at a school newspaper for like 3 years, and I became a huge fan of InDesign through that.
Yeah. That was like where I learned to love InDesign, because I was where it was a 6 p.m. to like 2 a.m. shift, and I was laying out the newspapers for like 3 local towns.
Yes. It is. So it does feel rewarding though to know like the minute you finish the file and send it to the printer, it's like it's being printed as right now.
Right now. I would have like the press guys calling me like, hey, where is this? Like some story was like happening late. I remember one time there was like a trial going on for the town that this paper I was doing. So we had to wait until like that reporter got their story in, and it was me calling the press guys who were like at the printer, like, just give us a little bit more time.
begging for a little bit more time. This question from On Paper Go. Do you have, I don't know if this, we'll see. So do you have a best practice for trapping the reverse type?
Do you mean the spine? Like
that's all I got.
Where we knocked out?
Yeah, maybe that's what they mean.
Yeah, so I just masked out this. We can open it. So if we turn off this layer, we have, does it want to turn off? Okay. So we had this type here, and if you command and click this little icon, it'll select everything on that layer. So let's delete this. So then if I just masked this, see, it's going a little bit slow, and then I did the reverse command I inverse the mask so that the foil is there kind of outlining the title type. So that's how we did that.
I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, I hope that's what they were talking about.
I hope so too. The white type on black. Yeah. So I guess we didn't use white type on black as much as
and then we had the black underneath this art file. Yeah. Which is easy because like then if I change the black here, like I don't have to change it everywhere.
Exactly. Perfect.
We can just like I'm just like adding more stars.
Add more stars. Yeah. So we have another question here from Rog Magnell. Do you adjust your rich blacks depending on the colors of your design?
Yeah, so you know what? I actually have used like both blacks before. If you want something to print like a subtle pattern, like on top of black, you can do that. So I like it's a case by case basis. But like where I work, the people who help with all of our printing stuff, like there is like a specific rich black that with certain numbers that they prefer we use, because that just matches best with the profiles that the printers, like wherever all the books are printing. So they like kind of inform us there. Like what
so then that comes down to like having a good relationship with your printer and being able to understand their needs so you can set up a file that works perfectly for them so that you get your perfect print. So yeah, I'm
very lucky to I work with like really great production people that handle like all like dealing with the printer and like communicating any like special needs for files with us.
Totally. I feel like it just comes down to experience for sure. Just having a good relationship and plenty of experience to kind of anticipate what might be a hiccup down the line. So we've got about 5 minutes left. Do you have any other little tips or tools that you like to use in InDesign to check your work when it's final, or when you're about to send it off to the printer, or anything else that you want to add that you feel like is a tool you use all the time, but you didn't maybe get a chance to use it on this design?
Let me think.
Color, or well, you yesterday you told us about how you preview it with W. I don't think we've done that so much today.
Oh yeah, so I check. So we have like if we zoom, let me zoom in here. I actually don't have it filled. So this red line, this is the bleed, and then if you hit just W, it knocks out like all the guides go away, all the bleeds. But like, see, you can see it's highlighting where the box extends to. So it just shows you this is the trim size of the jacket. So we have all of that extra bleed at the top, to make sure that they're cutting through and there's no like white edges on the book covers we're doing. So I am just like constantly like, I'll do Command 0 to zoom out the whole way and look at the full jacket, and then W to just like see how the whole thing is looking all together.
Exactly. I feel like it's so rewarding when you press W and things are like, oh, okay, that looks right. I didn't make a horrible mess up. It's so nice.
And
perfect.
So
this looks amazing. What do you usually do like when you're gonna mock something? Do you have any tips there?
So I'll usually like I'll export like individually, like so that like the plugin that I use, like you can export like the front cover, you can export the spine, and I'll like kind of like I usually use like smart objects and like the perspective tool in Photoshop.
That's always handy.
To like mock that stuff up, and like then you can like change the background and stuff. Like that's what like I do like background changes and like a shadow on my website. But
your website, you have like some really nice mock-ups.
Yeah. So, and I, if I go back to, I can show you this mock-up. Hold on. So if you go on my Behance profile, I did this box set that it's a bunch of books that are popular on TikTok, but we have the die line and we have just like a cool product mock-up for that shows like all the spines of the book. And I use like a Photoshop like smart object where I had to keep like making changes to the front cover, and it was just easy to like keep updating it there, and then it was like already in perspective. I didn't have to like keep redoing that. So like there's a time and a place for smart objects in Photoshop.
For sure. They definitely help out. They help out so much. So this whole time you've been working on this fantasy book cover, and we've been talking about your experience in the publishing industry. We talked about it yesterday and today. I'm wondering, do you have a piece of a portfolio advice for people who want to break into book cover design, who inspired from your stream now want to dabble in book cover design? What can they do to get started building their portfolio?
So I always tell people like whatever you like to work on, like so I like to read young adult books. So I started out like thinking like, oh, I should be working on kind of young adult covers. But if you like adult fiction, like nonfiction, there's so many different styles that can suit like whatever you do best. Like if it's like more photography heavy, if you're like really good at editing photos, like maybe more nonfiction is good for you. But like you can just invent projects for
Yes,
yourself
that's the
and
best
fill your
part.
portfolio. Yeah.
Like today, the one that you invented this book today. Can we go back to it?
Yeah,
and
we literally made this up, and now it's a whole book jacket, and it shows that if you do something like this, you can show that you know how to set like a large piece of copy. And you can think big picture of all the details with like adding little swords and adding like all these extra like little greenery elements and how it interacts with the type. Like, and the spine and flipping it on its side and making it fit. There's just so many opportunities here doing what you want to be doing to show how you have all the skills. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So we have to start wrapping up. So can you give us a little rundown of what we accomplished today on the stream? Yeah. And where people can find you now that they're obsessed with your work.
So we did kind of like a custom fantasy lettering in Adobe Fresco, starting with a sketch and then kind of more like fully formed letters that we just exported as a Photoshop file, and some extra art pieces that I had, all Photoshop files we laid out in InDesign and set some type to like kind of design this whole jacket mechanical. And you can find me on Instagram at _ the bookcase and _ Casey Moses on TikTok and Twitter.
Yes, definitely follow Casey on Instagram and all her social platforms. But I really want to recommend TikTok. I feel like she's sharing a lot of educational book design knowledge, as well as her own processes, as well as just like really cool book recommendations, because she is living and working and breathing in this space. So if you're interested in book cover design and books, go follow Casey over on TikTok. You won't regret following her until you can keep up with her there, since we already worked on this incredible book cover and you learned so much. So I want to take a second to thank everyone who joined us throughout this stream. I want to thank you, Casey, for bringing your amazing skills and energy and showing us your entire process. So great job. This has been incredible. I love seeing. If you didn't catch yesterday's romance novel book cover, be sure to check out that. Watch the replay of that. This one was also incredible. And don't go anywhere, you guys. Stick around for the creative encores of the Illustrator Creative Challenge with Julia Vaca, immediately followed by day 2 of editing TikToks with Camila Santander. Be sure to stick around for that. And once again, you guys, thanks so much for being here today. Until next time, friends. Thank you, Casey.
Thank you.
Bye, guys. Bye. Until next time.